United States won, Turkiye 2 in the first of two summer friendlies preceding the Gold Cup for the United States men's national team. Quick look back at what we saw in East Hartford, Rentschler Field, my old stomping grounds in my ESPN days. Saw a few games in that venue. Good turnout. Lots of Turks that were out there too, so good excitement even regardless of who you were cheering for. That was good news. But there was some more good news. And we'll get into all of that here on the Soccer OG. Like and subscribe to the channel. Like the video. Leave a comment. Open to the discourse. You can chat. You can complain. You can ask me a question. Whatever it is, we are ready to go. So we'll get right into it here for the U.S. Coming off that disappointing Nations League setup. Coming off a long couple of weeks here where we got more bad news with players skipping out of camp. Highlighted by Christian Pulisic. Serginho Dest, the most recent. Zach Steffen. You had the guys that are at the Club World Cup. Gio Reyna, Weston McKennie, Tim Weah. You have Anthony Robinson facing surgery. You could have made a team with the guys that are missing as a USA first team just about. It was that lengthy. And I've watched a lot of games in World Cup qualifiers, Nations League games, and I've yet to see a country that is missing as many of their regulars as the U.S. Different levels, but nothing can match what I've seen at the U.S. You know, a couple French players out, maybe a couple Dutch players. Mexico were missing some guys. Canada missing maybe two. Canada looked great, by the way, as they were up 4-0 on Ukraine. It ended 4-2. Mexico, not so good, getting blitzed by the Swiss, who is the U.S.'s next opponent. Turkey and Switzerland will flip-flop. By the way, just something I want to get off my chest. It's nothing off my chest. You know, we're told to say Turkiye instead of Turkey. I am fine with that. But I don't want any inconsistencies. If we are going to do this, let's do it across the board. Let's call Spain España. Let's call Germany Deutschland. Let's call Norway Norge, etc., etc. How do the natives call it? How do we get some of these names? How did we get Germany out of Deutschland? Some artistic license there. So let's do it across the board. I think it would be a relief. We won't have to question it. And if people have a problem with it, tough toodles. Thank you. Let's get back to the game. Listen, we know the expectations were very low because of that long list of players, the two losses in the Nations League. And we're so close to the World Cup. There is a panic. So we needed to see a good effort. Now, keep in mind, this could have gone really, really bad. It could really have gone bad. And I'll tell you why I give my star of the match to who I give it to in a moment. Because Turkiye made the quarterfinals of the Euros. Easily could have made the semifinals. They, in fact, blew it. Should have made the semifinals. If you make a semifinals, who knows? This is a team that is, if I had to pick a surprise packet in the next World Cup, it's probably Turkey. Turkiye. It is probably them. All due respect, wonderful country. I've never been. I want to go. And I know a lot of Turkish people. Fine, fine folks. So my apologies if I don't say it the right way. And you got a great national team, folks. In Arda Güler and Kenan Yildiz, you have two of the 15 best young players in the world. I heard Juventus is valuating Yildiz at around $90 million. Arda Güler plays at Real Madrid. He is valued around $50, $60 million. You have those two Benfica players that have been exceptional. You have guys that play in all the top leagues from back to front. Turkey could have blown the doors off the United States. They have that kind of talent. And for about a 25-minute span, it would appear that might be on the cards. So we'll get into all of that. Again, we're not going to take up too much of your time. This was the starting 11, which I'm sure freaked out a lot of people. And look, if you want to be a true U.S. men's national team connoisseur, then your debate about who should play cannot come down to such a black and white issue if he plays in MLS and he doesn't. I know a lot of you judge that. We've got to get past that because this game really helped squash that narrative because we saw a lot of these MLS players. Look, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the European players and the MLS players are on the level. No. Playing in Europe is the goal, is the target for every young American player. Every player, no player I've ever said, I want to come to MLS and excel. They all have that little thing, I want to go to Europe at some point. I know it's the case. But for whatever reason, we have some concerns about that with the players handling club and country, as I talked about in the last show, with regards to maybe some players shouldn't be in Europe, whether some leagues in Europe aren't as good as they are advertised. The English Championship, give me a break. That debate's got to end. That maybe some players that play in the English Championship or in maybe some smaller Western European leagues are better served playing in MLS. You could see there were 8 MLS players in that starting 11. And I would say 5 played pretty well or above pretty well. So you can't, if you look at it through that microscope, I don't think you should have a seat at the table. You have to be able to filter these players down on an individual basis. But I'm not here to bash people, or I'm not bash people. I want to have a real conversation. And this game allowed that. And again, I'm not here to rah-rah MLS because the best player there was a European. The best player in this game was a European-based player. So and the guys that we're missing can make a huge difference. And we need them. But without them, we got a looking glass into what this U.S. team requires. And that's effort and run through the wall for your country, which I think by and large this group demonstrated. Jack McGlynn, look, he's not a starter for the U.S., but he's got an incredible left foot. There's a spot for him on the 2026 roster because of that. Incredible goal, inverted winger. So I'm sure Mauricio Pochettino got all giddy about doing that. Scoring in the first minute. And then the U.S. played a very expansive game, playing out of the back. They had tons of possession. Most of the possession came in their defensive third, to be honest. Not enough in that attacking third, which is something they would look to do. Playing out of the back seemed okay until the blunder. And Matt Freese, who is an incredible story, I don't think he's going to be the USA #1, but because of injuries everywhere, he's given that opportunity. I don't think Matt Freese is going to be there in 2026, but he got his chance. He did okay. He could have helped out a little bit, but Jonny Cardoso can't hit that ball, and it goes into the back of the net. That tied the game. That crushed the U.S. immediately after. Turks scored again. It was 2-1, and that was you've got to put the second goal on the first goal, because if that first goal doesn't happen, the second goal doesn't happen. The reason it happens is because the U.S. were shell-shocked. And another lesson, and the good news about this Jonny Cardoso situation, it happened in a friendly. That can't happen in an important game, because that's it. The U.S. win this game without that play. I don't want to lump on Jonny Cardoso, but he is a big talking point on this. We don't want to give up on Jonny Cardoso because he is uber talented. He's got a great mustache. He has got like that 1930s leading man look. I love it. I think he could be super marketable, but that doesn't matter. He's a great footballer. One of the questions, he hasn't really connected with the U.S. team, which is something you can say about a lot of the U.S. players. Some have figured it out, some have not. I think Josh Sargent is a guy that hasn't figured it out, and I don't think we're going to see him back here before the World Cup. Haji Wright, I think I've seen enough of Haji Wright. I don't think he's got a shelf life with the U.S. So Mauricio Pochettino is not messing around. He wants results, whether you play in Europe, whether you play in the Premier League, the Championship, MLS, yada, yada, yada. He's making these decisions tough, and absolutely. And I wonder if Jonny Cardoso might be in that case. My gut says no. He made the mistake. He came off at the half. I imagine that was a design subbed. It wasn't a punishment. But after making a blunder like that, you wish he could have stayed out there. But on the flip side, Tyler Adams comes in and was sensational. And with Luca de la Torre in the second half, the U.S. pushed. I thought they were going to score. They should have scored. Malik Tillman is infuriating. Such a talent. Had a goal. Had a horrible turnover where the Turks almost scored. And he kind of falls in that category too with Jonny Cardoso. We have the talent, but when are we going to see it for the U.S. team? Again, you don't toss the baby with the bathwater. So he sticks around. I might have screwed up that expression, by the way, but you get the gist of it. So those guys are, to me, a big story here because we lean into them because they are so good for their European clubs. But I don't think Mauricio Pochettino cares. I think there's still a spot for them. But Tyler Adams, to me, his stock went, he looks healthy, ready to go. Put him in there. And he combined so well with Luca de la Torre, who was probably the MVP of this game the way he played. Luca de la Torre, what a great story. Spent all that time in Europe, lifting his profile. Then he got to come back to his hometown and play for San Diego FC, and now he's back on the national team where I think he is going to stay. I was so happy to see that. It was a full circle moment for that. So, all in all, I thought the U.S. played well. Should have won this game. You got to clean up the mistakes, but that's the only thing in between beating a very good Turkish team. They're going to face a very good Swiss team, and we want to see progress. This was a good step because, again, we could be talking here Turkey 5, USA 1 going, it's broken, but it's not broken. And the ceiling is still very high. So the midfield worked with Tyler Adams when he came in. The attack, good. Patrick Agyemang, I think he's running out. It's just not a good fit. I saw more from Brian White in the short time he was there. Didn't really see anything from Haji Wright. Forward situation is worrisome because we don't really have a good group here. We have Flo Balogun and Ricardo Pepi should be ready for the World Cup. Knock on wood. So of the others, I think you can start dispatching a couple of them. The winger play, really nice. Tillman was good, infuriating at times, but hey, you take the good with the bad. Quinn Sullivan came in. That guy's a keeper. Jack McGlynn scored the goal. Diego Luna maybe got lost a little bit, but you see the effort. He is going to stick around. It's going to get better for him as well. So all those guys around the attack, I'm happy with. Defensively, Matt Freese, congratulations. I don't really see another opportunity like this one for him. I might be wrong. Different Mark McKenzie, Miles Robinson coming in. Max Arfson is going to go to the 2026 World Cup. He's going to be the backup to Anthony Robinson. If you don't see the fact that Mauricio Pochettino adores that guy, and to think 4 years ago that dude was playing at UC Davis, Pochettino loves him. So it's not even what I say, but I see a guy that gets forward and makes a difference. He's not going to unseat Anthony Robinson, but he can probably back up both fullbacks. Max Arfson's got on the plane. He's there. And Alex Freeman, you saw a nice step. Nothing spectacular. Best player, Chris Richards. We have talked about him much like we saw with Jonny Cardoso and Malik Tillman. Playing great for club, not for country. He was a rock star. He went up at some of these great Turkish attackers, stoned them time and time again. He played like a captain. He acted like a captain. This was a breakthrough moment for Chris Richards. That is huge news for the United States. The MVP of this effort is Mauricio Pochettino. Because Mauricio Pochettino, of the 15, 16 guys that played, I would say 13, say 12, played better than we expected them to. They were a bunch of guys in diapers on the international stage, and they played with pride, and they ran through that door for their country, and they played to win. Mauricio Pochettino, after making a mess in the Nations League, after having a week with these guys, showed what his trainings can do for a team that is focused. And this is going to provide for those that aren't here a window to what is required so they can come in with blank and vinegar and make sure that they take this national team. Mauricio Pochettino was the most impressive person, and his staff for belief, the way he handled these players, the way he gave them opportunities, and should have got a result against Turkey. The Soccer OG, like and subscribe. We'll be back here for the Swiss game and the Gold Cup. And I'm bringing out the good attire, my shirt from Enriqueta's in Miami. ¡A serie!